Welcome to the Painting Lines Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things tennis. Join Erik and Aidan in their discussion for updates on news and pop culture, and from hot takes to betting, they've got you covered.
Ready? Play.
All right, guys. So we just capped off a great week at Indian Wells and looking forward to next week in Miami. But before that, why don't we give our analysis on the week, what happened, and Aiden, why don't you give your 2 cents?
Yeah, I mean, Indian Wells is an interesting tournament. It's one of the biggest tournaments in the world now underneath the slams. But did you know, actually, it wasn't in Indian Wells for a long time?
Where was it?
It was in Tucson, Arizona, and then it went to 2 other places, Rancho Mirage and then La Quinta.
Was it still called Indian Wells?
Well, not at those points. I mean, technically right now it's not even called Indian Wells. It's called the BNP Paribas Open.
Yeah, French bank.
Yeah, but it's owned by Larry Ellison at this point. So, yeah, I mean, that's why it's worth so much money, is because Oracle is just funding the entire thing. But it's a pretty big tournament. I mean, Djokovic and Federer have both won it 5 times, which is crazy. And kind of, you can see they're winning it kind of reflecting their periods of dominance, because Federer won it 3 times in a row from 2004 to 2006. And then Djokovic won it 3 times in a row from 2014 to 16. So, like, those were kind of like pretty dominant eras for both of them.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's one of the biggest tournaments in the U.S. outside of the Grand Slam, U.S. Open.
It's one of the biggest tournaments in the world.
Well, yeah.
People consider
Masters 1000.
People consider it literally as other than the tour finals, people say that it's the biggest tournament outside of the slams. But yeah, and then, I mean, looking forward to this week, we got the Sunshine Double going into Miami. So Alcaraz, he's the defending champ in Miami. So, I mean, it wouldn't be unrealistic to see him go for that.
I think he'll do it.
You think he'll do it?
Bold
prediction?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he was just dumb. I don't even think he lost the set.
Yeah, and his match against Medvedev, he just,
Random.
I mean, I don't want to say embarrassed him, but Medvedev didn't look like he had a chance at any point in that match.
Not at all. Not at all. I would say, well, speaking about Medvedev, one of my biggest takeaways from Indian Wells, he is crazy athletic. Have you seen him play like 5 meters behind the baseline and then still cover the whole court? And I think that's why he did as well as he did, because he can just hang back behind the baseline and still win. Like, how many players do you know can do that?
I mean, you got to say like Nadal or players like that, and Diminar, people like that. But
no. You can't say Deminar. You could say Nadal, but you cannot say Deminar.
Are you kidding me? Diminar's a crazy athlete.
How far did Deminar go in this tournament?
Yeah, but that doesn't have to do with like the athleticism and the ability to stay behind the base.
Well, I guess my biggest point is Medvedev is 6'6", lanky. He doesn't look like an athlete, but he moves. He moves.
I definitely agree.
He's got wheels.
I definitely agree that he is very sneaky athletic, and you don't expect it out of him based on how he looks and how he plays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were looking at him just based on how he looks and his form and stuff, you would assume he just kind of sits at the baseline and just kind of pounds the ball. But I mean, he gets to a lot of stuff. So
yeah, no, I don't know why more people don't serve and volley him though. I mean, you could try, it just doesn't work as much.
Tiafoe tried it.
Yeah.
Tiafoe tried it. If you watch the later set, like later in the second set, you can see that he was forcing the serve and volley. And it was working kind of, but it wasn't working all the time, and didn't end up working out for Tiafoe. But
right. I mean, you just got to serve out wide to him, get him all the way in the corner. But nah, Medvedev's crazy.
But he can pull those like crazy shots. Like I mean, all the top players can, but he can pull crazy shots out of nowhere if you don't put him away. So.
No, well, speaking of Tiafoe, another takeaway, he makes his first Masters semifinal.
Pretty massive. I mean, Tiafoe's one of those players where you can see him get really far in a lot of tournaments, I feel like. If he plays at the top of he's one of those players with so much potential that if he's playing at the top of his game, he can completely compete with the best in the world. I mean, what was it, the U.S. Open last year when he beat Nadal?
Yeah. Yeah, he made it to a semi in the Grand Slam. But
Exactly. So that's pretty massive for him too. So when he's on, he can be one of the best in the world.
Yeah, he's electric. He's a fun player to watch too. Not just tennis-wise, but he's got a personality. Oh my God. I love watching him because his racket is completely parallel to the court before he just rips his forehand. And then he's got some nice net game too in the forecourt.
One thing he's really good at is he's not afraid to like mix up the pace of his balls. I mean, like it's not like he just hits, oh, I'm going to hit it hard and then maybe I'll hit a drop shot. Like he'll hit a top spin ball, but just sort of hit like a changeup.
Right.
And so maybe he'll go for an angle and hit a changeup, and all of a sudden the player he's against has to run about 30 yards to get to this ball.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this one shot too. It was a drop shot against him and he was running up, and instead of hitting a slice backhand, he like faked it and then went with his forehand and hit it to the right as he was on the left side. It was like the craziest fake.
I mean, I
backhand slice.
did not see that, but it sounds like an insane shot.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Speaking of drop shotting, Alcaraz, his drop shot's a weapon. He's probably the best on tour at drop shotting.
I mean, probably at the moment. I mean, he definitely uses it very well. And it's crazy because he uses it enough that you would think players would be expecting it, but it's so good that they can't do anything about it.
All right, let me ask you this. What's your thought on drop shots? Because I was watching with an older gentleman, and he was getting pissed every time Alcaraz would drop shot. He's like, oh, come on, this guy's being a wuss. Hit the ball, hit the ball. I said, I disagree. I think that's part of the game.
Here's what I would say to that guy. He's probably a massive Federer fan, I would bet. Federer was the king. Federer hit so many drop shots. Federer hit a bunch of junk balls. People just didn't talk about it because of how nice the rest of his game looked. He's just mad because he sees it as a young player kind of exploiting a certain aspect of the game really effectively. You can't be mad about a player using a certain thing. I mean, that's like getting mad at John Isner for serving really hard.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's part of the game. He definitely uses it the most, though, out of any player.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Like I've seen him do it against Medvedev 3 times in a row one game. Remember? In the final?
I mean, any player in the top, like probably any player in the top 10, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's hard to say any sort of junk ball isn't played the most by Bublik. I mean, you got to think that he plays every single possible non-normal shot the most.
He doesn't.
I mean, he wins sometimes. He's still in like the top 100, right?
Yeah. But he doesn't win when it matters. All right. Well, let me ask you this: would you say drop shotting someone and making them fall is the equivalent to crossing someone up and breaking their ankles in basketball? Because I've seen a few times where he would hit the drop shot and people would just be falling. Medvedev even did it once. I think he rolled his ankle.
I think on hard court you could say that, yeah. Because on hard court it's like you have enough grip that if you're falling, it means you really did not see it coming.
You got crossed up.
Exactly. Like you were going a completely different direction, and then you just went for the ball and had no like foot to stand on.
I wonder if it's as embarrassing too. Like if you fall in tennis,
it definitely is.
It's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, but I mean it's different on like grass. So at like Wimbledon, people slip all the time.
Oh yeah, especially in the earlier rounds too, when the grass is fresh.
And in the grass, yeah, not a sort of as rugged as the later rounds. So
have you ever played on grass? I
have played on grass one time. It's a very weird game. It's very different because
it's fast, right?
It's not just that it's fast. It's like, you know how when the ball hits the paint and it skips instead of bouncing normally?
Yeah.
It's almost like every shot is like that.
Whoa.
So the ball doesn't bounce as high and it skips.
Interesting.
So,
And you obviously don't have as good footing either, huh?
yeah, I mean, the footing, you kind of, as long as you're not running full speed, it doesn't affect you as much. But the skipping is the weird thing.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of conditions, I feel like at Indian Wells, wind is always a factor. Did you see in Fritz's press conference, he essentially said the reason, not the reason he lost, but a big factor into why he lost was the wind. It just kind of came down to whoever was on the side with the wind made it count. Whereas like if you were going against the wind, he said you couldn't do anything. You couldn't hit. He would swing as hard as he could, and the ball would barely make it over the net. But
Maybe
I don't know if you can blame wind on that loss.
Maybe he should have been hitting more drop shots if the
Yeah.
ball was barely going up in the net. I mean,
exactly.
you can't blame the condition. I mean, unless it's like pouring rain and you can actually barely play, you can't blame the wind. I mean, it makes it more difficult, obviously. You're not used to playing in those conditions. You're probably practicing like indoors or in nicer conditions. If it's super windy, it's going to be more difficult, but it's difficult for both players.
Yeah, it doesn't help when you have Sinner who's ripping forehands with the wind. His forehand's strong as it is. Imagine with the wind to his back.
Yeah, imagine like Rublev just hitting with the wind.
Oh, man.
Then again, yeah, exactly. Then again, I mean, I wonder if Rublev would have been in a situation where he's hitting it too hard.
Yeah.
Because he hits the ball real flat, so if the wind's behind him, that could have become an issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, that wasn't even the most disappointing loss. You know, my boy Tommy Paul had 6 match points and could not close it out against Felix. It was so disappointing, man.
Feels bad.
Yeah. But
I mean, but then again, if you're a Felix fan, I mean,
6 match points.
Pretty exciting if you're on that side.
Yeah.
That's
no,
I always like thinking about those matches because it's like when you look at a match like Wimbledon 2019 with Djokovic versus Federer. Everyone rooting for Federer hates that match. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe he lost. But if you think about it from like the perspective of a Djokovic fan, you're like, this is the best match ever.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, he was down. He had all these match points against him, and then he came back, and I'm like, it's crazy to view it from the other perspective.
I know that. Hey, when you put it like that, you know, I never really looked at it like that.
Yeah, so Felix, I'm sure, was pretty stoked about that match.
Yeah. I know.
All the Canadians out there.
Hey.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we got the Medvedev-Zverev rivalry. That's going to be a good one in the future.
I mean, it's already a good one now. They're two of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's pretty interesting, too, because I feel like it's weird because you could say they almost have a similar game, but the thing is they just don't. They have such distinct styles about them that makes them really interesting, even though they have like a very similar sort of body type.
Yeah, no, I agree. Zverev needs to be more aggressive. He rarely comes over to the net or comes up to the net.
Yeah, and with a big frame like that, coming to the net is such a massive advantage.
Did you see his when Zverev smashed it on him and then Medvedev just sent it right back? He took a big hack at it? No? So do you remember the Andy Roddick Federer, something similar where Roddick smashed it on Federer and Federer on the run just whipped it right back, and Roddick actually threw his racket on the other side of the court? You don't know that?
That's got to be an old highlight.
After this, you got to hold. It was when Federer had a man bun, had that ponytail. So what? Early 2000s. You got to watch that after this.
So
but people were comparing.
He smashed the ball at him when he was at the net, or what happened?
Yeah. So the point, was all Zverev's to win, and he pinned Medvedev in the corner. Medvedev hit a lob, but the lob wasn't an effective one. Basically put it right in front of the net. So Zverev just crushed it, killed it. And then it bounced so high up that Medvedev was way behind the baseline, and it was just kind of right in his hitting zone. So he took a big overhead at it as if he was serving, and it just zoomed right past Zverev. Didn't even go for it.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's the worst. But what Zverev did, he just smashed it. He smashed it too short because it just bounced straight up, you know?
Yeah.
But
I mean, those are the ones where at like a regular tennis court, you're trying to bounce it over the back fence.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But on the bigger court, there's enough space that you can just back up and then hit it.
Yeah. I always love seeing, Murray's great at it, defending the smash.
Yeah,
I love
I mean,
when players do it.
you get that guy, you get some guy in the scramble, and
Yeah.
he's just able to somehow keep getting the ball back, and then all of a sudden they lose the point, and the announcer's always just like, he always gets that extra shot back.
I know. Oh man, that's what tennis is. That's why it's beautiful. You just got to make them play an extra point. You never know what will happen.
Yeah, I mean,
Get the ball back.
Agassi, I remember mentioned that in his book. He was like, tennis is just a war of attrition a lot of the time.
Yeah. Oh, I
It's
love
just
that.
it's just making sure that you can last in a point longer than the opponent, because one of you's probably going to make a mistake eventually.
Yeah. Speaking of Agassi, I saw on Tennis TV today, they did a little highlight. They said they quoted the video as the best shot at the Miami Open, where he hit he got lobbed and he hit a tweener pass. It was just beautiful.
I think my favorite tweener of all time was, have you ever seen when Nadal hit the tweener lob?
Oh my God, yes.
It's
He's got
such a
amazing touch.
spectacular. It's a shot where
Do you think that's an accident?
it's got to be to an extent. There's no way he could possibly have aimed that ball. Even if he was trying to,
Yeah.
there's no way he could have actually hit it that perfectly
Uh-huh.
in any sort of realistic scenario.
Yeah. You got to add a little bit of luck into tennis. When you see them, when they hit these amazing shots, they kind of look stunned themselves. They're like, oh, yeah. And then they like throw up their hand as if they, meant to do that. But I don't know how you practice that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't practice something like a tweener lob. It's such a specific scenario that you're rarely going to be going for.
Yeah. How's your tweener, Aidan?
I mean, I've hit it a couple times in a match, which is pretty much highlights of my tennis career. But
For a point, or just you hit it and it happened to go into the net?
no, like I hit it in. I
Oh,
didn't.
you
I
didn't
may have.
play.
Not, I may not. I don't know if I won the point or not, but like
Oh.
I got it back into play. So
Yeah. I have yet to do one.
it's. I mean, the big thing is I think people don't think about with the tweeners. You have to stay sort of on the ground while you're hitting it. Otherwise, like if you put like one leg up, all of a sudden your like swing is going to be super wonky. But I probably shouldn't be giving advice on how to play tennis.
Tough shot.
Yeah.
Did you see that Runa and Wawrinka drama?
Oh my God, that was crazy. I can't believe that Rune would say something like that.
Yeah. Well, he's just a little
It
cocky.
really just kind of supported all of what Wawrinka was saying.
Yeah, exactly. I think Wawrinka handled it excellently too. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Why would I have something to say?"
Yeah, I think he probably just forgot that he said something.
Yeah,
He was like,
just
"What did I
goes-
say? What are you talking about, dude?"
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think he should have said it. I don't think Runa was in the right spot to talk trash.
Yeah, I mean, talking trash is an interesting thing. I mean, I think talking trash is one of those things in all sports where you have to be able to back it up. You can't talk trash after a loss. That's
You can,
like,
but you'll look really bad.
yeah, I mean, that's like if you got dunked on in the NBA and then you got up and were like, dude, you're so garbage.
Yeah.
It's like, this dude just had his nuts in your face. What do you think? Like, what are you talking about? You can't be trash talking in that scenario.
Did you know the beef that they had before going into the match?
I did not. I didn't
didn't
know
either.
that.
So yeah, no. Once I saw that happen, I immediately went online, looked up like what they said, because in the highlight you can't really make out what they're saying, and then boom, just got all these articles. Because apparently Wawrinka said he needed to stop acting like a baby during matches because Runa had previously beat him about a year before. So I guess that was still on the top of Runa's mind going into this match, which is why he played pretty poorly. Like, I think Runa is the better player. All
I mean,
credit to
especially
Stan.
at this point, yeah.
All credit to Stan, but I think Runa was a little shaken up mentally. That's why he didn't play that well.
I mean, that's all that these older guys kind of have going for them at this point is they don't. I feel like the older these guys get, like the great players, like even guys like Murray and I mean someone like Isner or Djokovic or Nadal, they have so much experience on the tour. They're not going to get rattled as easily as these young guys.
Yeah. How old is Isner?
Isner's
He's up
37,
there.
I think.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So if you're in this scenario where, oh, you miss a couple shots, these guys are like, I've missed so many shots in my career. Those two don't matter. Even if it was like, oh, I lost the set because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't care that much. They're not worried about it. Versus if Rune loses this point and it's a round of 32 match, it's not that important of a match for Wawrinka. For Rune, it's a pretty important match. He's early on in his career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of money at stake too.
The experience really helps with that.
So speaking of these older players, do we think Sir Andy Murray will ever make it back into the top 10?
I mean, top 10, that's kind of a ambitious.
It's a reach, right?
Yeah, ambitious sort of.
Why is he still playing, man?
I mean, he loves the game. And he can still
but
compete.
you gotta, can he? And look how that ended up. I mean, he got a Super Bowl out of it. I'll give him that. But his most recent year was just kind of like, oh, man, like this guy was so good at one point, but he just needs to know when to hang it up.
He still was a NFL level court. It wasn't like he was playing at that low of a level. And it's hard. I mean, I remember watching sports in high school and looking at these kids and being like, damn, I should be on that field right now. I'm a better athlete than those people. And that's a bad feeling to have.
Yeah.
And it's extremely elevated for these guys that are top level athletes. Tom Brady doesn't want to be sitting at home watching Sunday football being like, why am I not playing right now when this guy's out there throwing 3 picks a game? And so for Murray and Wawrinka and people like that, it's the exact same thing. I mean, obviously there's money as an incentive, but it is the thing where, of course, they don't want to stop playing tennis. Even if they're not doing super well, they don't want to be watching these tournaments being like, I could be out there competing with these guys.
Right.
And instead I'm sitting at home doing nothing.
No, you never want to live your life with regret.
Exactly.
One thing you were saying about Tom Brady and watching football on Sundays just made me think of how he's going to be an announcer Sunday Night Football on Fox. And that had me thinking, I wonder if Federer will ever get into announcing. I think he'd be great at it.
I mean, I think that he could, but I don't know if he wants to.
You don't think?
I mean, what about him? Was he really the most talkative guy when he was out? I mean, like...
No, but how interesting would it be to watch a tennis match from his point of view? Like he is so knowledgeable on the game.
That's true, but I mean, you have to. I feel like it's better to have a personality that's talkative when they were a player. I mean, you can kind of tell who's the talkative sort of people. That's why I think McEnroe is such a great commentator.
Awesome. He's awesome, but he's not going to last forever.
He's
getting up there. He's getting up there, so they need to find the new GOAT announcer. I don't think it's going to be Roddick.
Yeah, I mean,
Tennis Channel loves putting on Roddick, and he's always on Zoom.
We'll see.
Have you noticed that?
I have not noticed. I mean, he's always on Zoom every time.
Every time they show him, he's on Zoom in like his basement.
Just same.
Never
setup.
have him in person.
Same setup as us. Just sitting in his room, just like.
Yeah, what a loser.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great to have him as an announcer. I'd love to hear his thoughts, but I don't know if it's something he desires to do.
I think Djokovic would be good too.
100%. I mean, Nadal, I think maybe his accent might
he's a little
make it a little tough for people, but
uh-huh.
Same thing. I mean, any sort of top player just hearing their thoughts about what's going on in someone else's head and like how someone set up a point, you get such a next level of analysis the better of a player the announcer was.
All right, should we jump into segments?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, what's going on in the tennis world? What's new?
I mean, obviously we just had the Indian Wells tournament, and a really cool thing that happened there was the oldest ever doubles winner in an ATP 1000 event, Rohan Bopanna, won the doubles tournament, and he's 43 years old.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's insane to think.
It's also doubles though.
But still, I mean, 43 and
No,
this
good
dude's
for him.
winning
Good for him. I have never won any tournament.
a
So.
top 6. He's winning a top 6 size tournament in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty crazy. But he won it also with his partner was this guy Matthew Ebden, an Australian player. And a cool story about Ebden is there used to be in my hometown a challenger event, and when I was younger, I ball boyed for that event, and I got to ball boy like multiple matches for Matthew Ebden.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool, and now he's
How was he? Is he a nice guy?
Oh, he was very nice, and now he's won actually 2 Grand Slams in doubles.
Wow. Did you carry a sweaty towel too, or were you just ball boy?
No, I was one of like the net ball boys mainly. So what happened with that was you didn't really deal with all the stuff on like the seats and the passing balls to people. You were just running back and forth with the net mainly.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. Well, so I have 2 things. Well, the first, Medvedev, he defends Alcaraz's #1 ranking after being asked about it by a reporter, with Djokovic not being present at the tournament. I think that's very commendable. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, just because Djokovic, I think he would have played a big part in Alcaraz's ranking if he had been at that tournament. But I think it goes to show the type of class player that Medvedev is by saying, essentially he won the most points this year. Like, why should he not be #1? Injuries are a part of the sport. Not only injuries, but just, factors that are out of control. He also brought up Nadal. Nadal's been injured throughout his whole career. Like, you don't take away #1 rankings just because people are injured or can't be at the tournament because of other reasons.
Yeah. I mean, the thing though that I really feel makes it a little bit iffy is the fact that it's completely out of Djokovic's control. He didn't get injured. He's completely healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, the fact that he can't get any points. You're looking at the swing for winning Indian Wells in terms of points. Like, Alcaraz gets such a massive boost and Djokovic gets literally 0.
Right.
If someone gets injured in the 4th round of the tournament, they still get some points. Djokovic is pretty much a lock to get to at least the quarters of this tournament. And he's so far ahead after the Australian Open that all of a sudden he can't play in 2 massive tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it a little bit weird, but I agree that it is very commendable for Medvedev to say that. Then again, what else is he really going to say? I mean,
yeah,
he's not really, in my opinion, unless he has something against the person, he's probably not the type of person to make an aggressive comment about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in that situation, he's not going to say, "Oh, this is BS. He doesn't deserve to be #1."
Mm-hmm. No, especially after the way the final went. Like, I wonder if it had gone different, like maybe even 3 sets, a little bit of a tighter match, if Medvedev wouldn't have jumped to the defense so fast, because you can't, like we said earlier, you can't really, what is he going to say? No, Alcaraz doesn't deserve to be #1 after he just waxed the floor with me 6-2, 6-3.
Yeah. I mean, that would just make yourself look worse, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
If you say, "Oh, well, I lost this guy 6," if you say I lost this guy 6-2, 6-3 or whatever it was, and you say, "Oh, this guy's garbage," It's like, what does that make you?
Yeah.
But if you say he's the best in the world, you're like, well, maybe I'm the second best.
Gar-
So
Garbage on fire. That's what it makes you.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. Bet of the week.
I mean, early rounds. I don't want to give a bet that's just a lock. I'm not trying to pick Alcaraz to win round one. So I'm going to
No
go
value there,
for a
yeah.
big underdog. Looking for a value bet here. I took Monfils taking the win over Humbert.
Too French, huh?
Yeah, he is a pretty big underdog, plus 210. But, I mean, it's one of those things where you're looking at Monfils, and he obviously has the ability to play at an insane level earlier in his career. If he has a flash where he just is playing at a high level and is feeling good, essentially, I think he could easily beat Humbert.
Mhm.
But in all likelihood, he's going to be playing at an average level for his age, and Humbert's 13 years younger than him. So I feel like it's a risky bet, but it could pay off pretty well if you go for it.
Yeah, we will stay tuned. I'm also taking an underdog. I'm taking team plus 135 over Sonego. This is a purely emotional bet for me. You know,
Crazy to think team is the underdog.
I think team is due for one. I got a feeling in my gut. He's, long overdue. I think he's going to end the drought with this. Super disappointing if he doesn't even make it past the first round of this tournament.
What do you think he needs to do to get out of this slump? Do you think it's just
I think it's confidence. I think he's not playing well, which is just dragging him down even more. I think if he goes in with the right mindset, because he's been quoted saying, he's not even a challenge when he plays opponents. Like, who says that other than Tsitsipas? Remember what he said in the beginning of the tournament? He said, "I don't expect to do well. I'm injured." Okay, well, when you say that, no wonder
yeah,
you early exit.
zero
Nah,
confidence?
Exactly. I think it's
I think also it's if you're talking bad about yourself, it almost gives you like an excuse to lose.
right.
Like, oh, well, I'm not
Yeah, you're not
playing well
pushing
recently,
yourself, yeah.
so of course, if I lose in the first round, no one's going to be shocked.
Right. You're just being complacent.
But if he says
Giving yourself an easy out.
exactly.
So you asked me what he needs to do to get out of this slump. I think he needs to fix his team. He needs to hire a sports psychologist or get someone on his team that's able to lift him up and basically get him mentally where he needs to be. Because I think his skills, he's way past his injury. I don't think it's his wrist anymore. I think it's just his head. I think once he fixes that, he can get back to where he used to be.
Yeah, I mean, then again, there isn't sometimes a thing that happens where the injury causes the mental sort of blockage. I mean, I remember when Markel Fultz got drafted to the 76ers, he came into the league and everyone was like, okay, he was really good in college, but he was injured. And then he came back and all of a sudden his shot was just super messed up.
Oh.
And it was really just a mental thing. Like he should have been fully healed and able to play like he used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is an element where if you have an injury and then you come back and then maybe you don't play at the highest level when you come back, you sort of maybe you're blaming the injury, maybe you're not sort of focusing on, oh, okay, what can I do to actually get better? You're just trying to almost using the injury as a crutch or an excuse to explain your poor playing.
It's like a mental block, right?
Exactly. Do you think him taking a break from tennis, do you think that would ever help? I mean, because I remember when in late 2016, Federer took a break from tennis, and then he came back, and 2017 was one of the best years of his career.
Yeah. I don't know, just because in Federer's case, he wasn't injured, whereas he took a break. He took almost a year off. But I think what he needs to do is something you mentioned earlier, is playing in those smaller qualifiers, like getting his confidence back up, starting to really work on his craft there, and then slowly but surely get back into the swing of things with these like lower ATP 250s and then 500s, and then keep working his way up. I think that's what he needs to do. Not take a break necessarily, but take a break from the higher caliber tennis.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really difficult though to you're a player that has been in the top 5 in the world to then be like, okay, what I need to do right now is go play a challenger tournament.
Yeah.
For no money against relative nobodies compared to the people he's played in the past.
No, it takes humility though.
Exactly. Massive humility. It takes not letting your ego get in the way. But I think you're right. I think that may be very effective for him if he was willing to do that.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to match of the week.
Okay, my match of the week was the semifinal, Tiafoe versus Medvedev. I mean, it was an exciting match to watch, and I think it was a very tactical match to watch. Like I talked about earlier, it was interesting to see how Tiafoe sort of adjusted his game. You could see he was playing very smart. You could see he was trying a lot of different things to try and figure out how to beat Medvedev. And I think that's really massive. It's one of those things where Medvedev is such an elite player that Tiafoe is looking at it maybe almost as, maybe I won't beat him this time, but what's effective for me against him moving forward. If I can learn, I win a lot of points when I go to the net. I win a lot of points when I hit a lot of drop shots. I win a lot of points when I force him to his backhand repeatedly. Just learning those sort of things against a player, and it's one of those things where you can know, this guy, maybe his backhand isn't the strongest, but sometimes against you, just the way you hit the ball, it does work for him. So knowing how he's going to play, how Medvedev is going to play against Tiafoe, I think Tiafoe's building, and in the future, I think Tiafoe will get the wins over Medvedev.
Oh yeah, I would love to see that. The big foe.
Yeah,
we need one.
Yeah, I mean that guy's a sick player to watch. I mean, he hits the crap out of the ball, and I think he's also just a smart player, like I was kind of explaining.
Yeah, he does a really good job of crafting points. Like he doesn't just go for winners every time. He's setting it up. He's thinking 2-3 shots ahead, which
is a really cool thing to see in a tennis player. I mean, there are definitely players I feel like that can get to a very high level purely based on just I can hit the ball super hard and I can control sort of where it goes, but they don't have maybe that next level of strategy that you need at that highest level.
Yeah. So my match of the week is the other semifinal, Alcaraz and Sinner. I picked that one. It was tight first set, went into a tiebreaker, and then second set, Alcaraz just came up on top 6-3. But I picked it because I think that's a rivalry that we're going to see plenty of times over in the future. Two 19, 20-year-olds going at it, trading blows. It was a good match. The score may have not reflected it, but all the games were close. Some great rallies. I thought it was tennis at its finest quality right there.
What do you think it is that about Alcaraz that makes him able to beat Sinner in matches like that? Is it just he just had what is it about his game?
I think it's that damn drop shot.
he just exploits it against people.
Yeah, I mean, so it's another athletic. I think he's a smart player. Don't get me wrong, but he is very athletic too. So also the point of the tournament came in that match where, Sinner had him pinned. He was running back and forth across the baseline, and he somehow won the point. Like Alcaraz should not have been able to get to a few of those points. And then ultimately the one that he hit the winner on he was so far outside of the court, and he just had that lucky angle, where it just goes around the net where Sinner can't really do anything about it. It was one of those where I'm just like, oh my God, like this guy is just too good.
The around the net shot's always crazy too, because I feel like if someone has that angle presented to them, it's almost always a winner, because you can hit the ball so low.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You don't have to hit the ball over the net. You can literally hit it at the half of the net height, and it'll just go over and bounce twice super fast.
Yeah, it's a sweet shot. Have you ever done one?
I mean, I think it's a very specific. You has to be at a specific kind of court to be able to do it, because I think it only really works on stadium courts, because there's so much space around the court to get wide,
right?
That you don't have on a normal tennis court.
Yeah, you just don't have that angle.
Exactly.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.